The day I left my husband, I thought I was stepping into freedom. I imagined a weight lifting off my shoulders, an instant sense of relief washing over me as I walked away from the life that had felt more like a cage than a home. What I didn't expect was the storm that followed, the waves of doubt, loneliness, and unexpected grief that crashed into me over and over again. Leaving wasn't just about walking out the door. It was about unraveling years of shared history, breaking apart dreams that were once built together, and stepping into a world where I had to redefine myself from scratch. I wish someone had told me what to expect. I wish someone had warned me about the hard parts, the quiet nights filled with second guessing, the friendships that would dissolve, and the deep financial and emotional struggles that lay ahead. That's why I'm writing this now, not because I regret my decision, but because I want others who were in this place to be prepared for what comes next. Here are the 5 things I wish I knew before I left my husband. Chapter 1. Love is not enough. For years, I held on to the belief that love could fix anything. That if I just loved him enough, if I just tried harder, if I just bent myself a little more, everything would be okay. But love isn't enough. Not when there's a lack of respect, understanding, or true partnership. Love, on its own, cannot sustain a relationship where one or both people are unhappy. There were red flags I ignored because I convinced myself that love could make up for them. The dismissive remarks, the way I felt small in my own home, the quiet resentment that built between us like an unspoken wall. I saw them all, but I didn't want to believe they were signs of something deeper. Leading wasn't about not loving him. It was about realizing that love alone wasn't enough to keep me whole. It wasn't enough to erase the loneliness I felt even when he was in the same room. It wasn't enough to make me feel seen, valued, or safe. I wish I had understood that sooner, that I had stopped blaming myself for not being able to make something work that was never meant to last. But walking away from love, no matter how broken, is not easy. Love, even in its most fractured form, still tugs at you, makes you remember the good moments, the laughter, the dreams you once shared. I spent months questioning myself, wondering if I had given up too soon, if I had just tried a little harder. The truth is, love should not be a battle where one person is constantly losing themselves to keep the other happy. And that's what I had been doing for years. I remember one particular night, long before I left, when I sat alone in our bedroom, staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of my unhappiness suffocate me. I had tried to talk to him earlier that evening, to tell him how I was feeling, but he brushed me off, distracted by his phone, by work, by everything else that seemed more important than me. That moment stuck with me, the realization that I could be sitting right next to someone and still feel utterly alone. Even after I left, I kept questioning myself. Did I make the right choice? Could things have been different? The what-ifs were relentless. But over time, I came to see that staying would have meant continuing to shrink myself, to silence my own needs, and that was no way to live. Chapter 2. Healing takes longer than you think. In the days after I left, I kept waiting to feel free. I expected a sudden rush of relief, an immediate lightness in my heart. But instead, I felt lost. The life I had known, flawed as it was, had disappeared overnight, and in its place was an empty space I didn't know how to fill. Healing wasn't linear. Some days I felt strong, like I had made the best decision of my life. Other days, I found myself crying in my car, overwhelmed by the sheer weight of my choices. There were moments of deep regret, even though I knew leaving was the right thing to do. No one tells you that you might still miss someone you don't want to be with. No one tells you that moving on doesn't happen the moment you walk away. Grief doesn't just come from loss, it also comes from letting go of the life you imagined. I had to mourn the version of my life I had once hoped for, the future I thought we would build together. I had to accept that even though I left, there would still be moments of sadness, moments of longing, moments where I would look back and wonder, what if? I learned that healing isn't about forgetting the past or pretending it didn't hurt. It's about sitting with the pain, letting yourself grieve, and slowly, very slowly, learning how to build a new life. If I could go back, I would tell myself to be patient. That just because it hurts doesn't mean it was the wrong choice. That healing doesn't come overnight, but it does come. Chapter 3. Financial independence matters more than you think. When I left, I thought I had planned well enough. I had some savings, a place to go, and a budget that seemed reasonable. But what I didn't realize was how much financial independence truly dictated my ability to stand on my own 2 feet. Money was more than just bills and rent. It was security, stability, and freedom. I had to learn how to manage finances on my own, how to rebuild credit, and how to adjust to a single-income household. I wish I had saved more, planned better, and understood the hidden costs of starting over. Chapter 4. Your support system will change. One of the hardest lessons I learned after leaving was that not everyone would stand by me. Friendships that I thought were unshakable faded. Some people took sides, others drifted away, and some simply didn't know how to support me in my new life. At first, I felt abandoned. I was shocked by how many people who had been a part of my life disappeared. Some mutual friends chose to remain loyal to my ex-husband, while others simply felt uncomfortable being caught in the middle. The people who had once been my support system were no longer there, and that was a painful reality to accept. But over time, I realized that change also brings opportunity. While I lost some people, I also gained new friendships, ones built on mutual respect, understanding, and shared experiences. I found support in unexpected places, from colleagues to distant relatives to online communities of women who had gone through the same thing. It took effort to rebuild my support system, but I learned that the people who truly cared about me would stay, and those who left were never meant to be a part of my long-term journey. If I could go back, I would have prepared myself emotionally for these changes. I would have reminded myself that losing people can sometimes make space for better, healthier relationships. And most importantly, I would have focused more on surrounding myself with people who truly wanted to see me happy and thriving. Chapter 5. You will find yourself again, but not how you expect. Leaving wasn't just about ending a relationship. It was about rediscovering who I was outside of it. For so long, my identity had been tied to being a wife, to making decisions with someone else in mind, to compromising for the sake of the marriage. When that ended, I was left asking myself, who am I now? At first, I thought I would simply go back to the person I was before I got married. I imagined reclaiming old hobbies, old friendships, old versions of myself. But I quickly learned that I wasn't meant to go back. I was meant to evolve into someone new. Rebuilding my identity was both exciting and terrifying. I had to relearn how to make choices purely for myself, how to stand on my own without seeking validation from a partner. I started traveling alone, taking up new activities, and pushing myself out of my comfort zone. Some days, I felt liberated. Other days, I felt like a stranger in my own life. One of the biggest surprises was how much my interests and desires had changed. Things I used to love no longer fulfilled me, and new passions emerged in unexpected ways. I allowed myself to explore, to make mistakes, to grow without pressure. And slowly, I found a version of myself that felt more authentic and whole than ever before. If I could give advice to anyone in this position, it would be this. Be patient with yourself. Give yourself the space to evolve naturally. You don't have to rush to find yourself. You are already there, just waiting to be rediscovered. Conclusion. If I could go back, would I still leave? Without a doubt. But I would leave with more knowledge, more preparation, and more understanding of what lay ahead. To anyone standing on the edge, wondering whether to stay or go, know this: it will be hard. It will hurt, but you will survive. And in the end, you just might find yourself in a way you never imagined. The journey to reclaiming yourself is not an easy one, but it is worth it. Trust that your future holds something better. And most importantly, trust yourself.